energy drinks. It's what's for every meal. Yeah, that's probably good right there. Yeah, just leave it.
Cool. So if I were you, I'd bring the mic a little bit closer to you.
I got room again now? Yeah, that's
Yep.
all I've got.
Let's get the chair. Well, did you put it on the table?
No, this is.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm there. It's
Okay,
good. It'll
okay,
be all
it's
right.
good.
I can scream if I need to.
All right.
Hear me?
So, so I posted a video just a little bit, and it's about the feds cutting the rates. How this is the year.
This is the year?
Yeah, well, this is the year that we anticipate the rate cut. So
Yeah.
So they're anticipating the first rate cut to be around March. No crystal ball, obviously, but a lot of experts are projecting for March to be the time frame when it's going to start. Now, we got 3 rate cuts coming, which is going to be huge. But there's a few articles we were reading into where I think personally 2024 is probably be bigger than probably like 2020 or 2021.
Define bigger.
I think there's going to be a bigger scramble in 2024 than there was during the COVID years.
Bigger scramble
to find homes.
So,
okay. But I mean, I think it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be like there's going to be plenty of buyers. It's going to be a very booming real estate boom, in my opinion.
Well, I didn't pull any stats or numbers this morning, but generally speaking, right now, and again, just kind of our little bubble, right, of the world, we don't have enough inventory.
But see, there's not enough inventory, but and again, we are going to run into an inventory issue, just like we did last time. Just like we did last time. The only other kicker to this one, that's why I'm saying it's going to be more, I guess, competitive. Is because you got all those people, man, who bought in the rates where the 2s and 3s, man, that they don't want to fork up their home.
I run into that quite a bit, especially with like so I can't tell you how many people over this past year that I'd had a conversation with that kind of started out serious about, hey, we're thinking about selling this, that.
Yeah.
Like, well, and I ended up kind of just maybe going towards the property management route, like maybe rent it out.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of those guys are now. And that's why a lot of them don't want to sell, or they don't want to sell because they don't want to give up this, whatever they're, because again, for everybody, interest rate does correlate to your monthly payment. Like I get that.
Right.
But they don't want to, it's not just, sometimes it's literally, some people, it's literally just the interest rate. It's not even like a money factor.
Right. That
they're looking at, because you can get decently close to that same payment, but they're going to be like, oh, I can't do no. 1,000,000%, and it's but that's what it feels like in their head. But you're like, well, 5.5% or 6% is a pretty. That's not a bad rate. That's an average rate.
Yeah,
but they just can't compute it because they were getting the 2.5.
Yeah. Which and it's the biggest topic, obviously coming up, and you're actually starting to see. A lot more interest being piqued. But we've said this on the podcast before, is the media, in my opinion, is going to play probably one of the biggest factors of when this thing pops off.
Agreed.
Because I don't think there's not enough that you and I can say, or how much you and I can educate. It's almost like, yeah, they believe us, but they want that second validation. And the second validation is when they start seeing social media posts, when they start seeing the media talk about it. But by that time, it may be too late. That's why we try to prep clients now. We're like, yo, dude, or like, yo, homie, if you are on the fence,
now's the time.
Yeah, or even if you're being picky, that window's starting to get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter because The rates have been improving, and there's no hiding it. You bet. I can guarantee you, especially after last year where the rates were at and how our side of the business has definitely slowed down quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anything to spark an interest, it. Like people are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where we talk about, it's the constant validation that people maybe seek. But I think, especially coming up and especially with the feds getting ready to, start talking about cutting rates,
Right.
if you wait to hear that news, you might miss that train.
Yeah, you're already behind the power curve.
Yeah, because and because it's not just you, it's not just the buyers who hear it, man. It's the builders, it's the agents, and guess what? The agents are like, oh, hey, this is what just happened. So just understand, you might start getting more interest. So maybe there's more showings on a certain listing, or maybe they're starting to see more traffic. They're like, well, this client wants his closing costs paid for. How about we just counter it? Yep. Because we're starting to see more traction now.
Yep.
And I truthfully think like that's where it's going to begin.
And that's where, and yeah, 100%. That's what we've been saying, for I feel like months now is concessions. We said it. The big one with when all four of us in here was the first thing to go every time is concessions.
Yeah,
every single time, because that in a sense it's basically, in a sense, it's like free money to the buyers, right?
Yeah.
So you as a seller, if you've got 3 or 4 offers on the table,
yeah,
and 2 of them or 3 of them are asking for closing expenses or some sort of concession,
yeah,
and one's like, we don't care, they're going to go with that one, and you'll start seeing that more and more and more, and all of a sudden the market, that's when the market really starts to take that big shift.
That pivot, yeah.
And then when you were originally in the position to where you could almost walk in a home for nearly nothing down.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say you don't have to pay anything, because there's some sort of cost there.
Yeah.
But when you're talking the difference between maybe it only costs you $1,000 to walk in versus now it's going to cost you $12,000 to walk in, that's a massive difference. And again, I can't say it again, is that $1,000 versus that $12,000, that's not financed, guys. That's like cash out of your back pocket.
Yep.
That's sourced, trackable money that's in a savings account or a gift fund. Yeah. So, because that's a big misconception that a lot of people are like, oh, well, you can just roll that stuff into your closing. No.
Yeah. Or you can be like Mike Langley, sell his Louis Vuitton jeans.
Oh, there you go.
Nah. What's up, Mike?
It's the shoes, man.
It's the shoes. It's the shoes and the belt,
man. It's the shoes.
Dude, I remember at the powerlifting meet, he rolled up, man, and he was decked out. I was like, I love it, man. I freaking love it. But and kind of going back to the they coach, but I keep them clean. But it's funny, even you're starting to see it even from, I won't say the investor side just yet, but this brings up a good point. Me and Mike had a client. He sent me somebody over the weekend, and it's a first time investor. But I kind of had to have that kind of, real conversation with him. I was like, well, what's your goal, man? What's your goal at the end of the day? Because do you want a monthly cash flowing property? Because right now, if that's the case, it's going to be for investing wise, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, those are really
extremely hard to come by.
Pretty much not really existent.
Yeah,
right now.
Because of where the rates are at, and we're coming from the investment side. And I had to kind of speak some like long term goals for him. I was like, if that's his goal, to where are you maybe wanting to keep this property just for pure equity? Maybe because like maybe you break even, maybe you don't pocket any money, but maybe you break at least even, and then you sit on it for 2 or 3 years, and then you're like, okay, I personally haven't put any, like, I'm not paying on this monthly, somebody else was paying on it, but I'm going to cash in and reap the benefit.
But that's the same conversation I have. So even some of my investors that I work with, it's literally the same exact conversation I have with people that are looking at buying for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not, you can't look at it as, so again, for conversation's sake, let's say you buy the house, whatever else. He said correct, assets appreciate versus capital. Yeah, 100%.
100%. Yeah.
And that's exactly, Mike, where I'm going with this is just like a first time home buyer is the same thing with an investor.
Yeah.
It may take you, let's say it costs you $300 a month to float this house. Like it's going to cost you out of your pocket $300.
Yeah.
Well, let's say, for example, again, so we'll use the same math that I always use on this on our show here is exit one is about 3.5%. So for that $375,000 house, it's about $17,500. So we'll just say a round number, we'll say 20 grand.
Yeah.
So let's say over the course of the next three years, and this is not exact math, but let's just say it goes up 60 grand in value.
Yeah. Yeah.
You over the course of 3 years of paying $300 a month, so 3 times 12, that's 36.
Yep.
So you're doing that 3 times. You're nowhere near 60 grand.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's an ROI, right? It's
Yeah.
it's your return on your investment.
Yeah.
Is just because you can't buy something and it quote unquote cash flows you doesn't mean it's a bad investment.
Correct. Yeah.
You just have to be that number has to be factored into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Same thing with a brand new buyer. It's just because maybe when you buy this house, it's not like, oh, well, I can sell it next year. It's not about that. It's an investment, right? So it may cost you a little bit more than what you're thinking originally, but
you got to look at the long term.
Your long-term return on investment is significantly better than, let's say, the difference between buying a house versus let's say a townhome or something.
Yep.
And those are the different conversations you can have. Kind of what's a better return on your investment. And at the end of the day, it really, guys, it boils down to one thing: what's your goal?
Yeah.
Like, what's your goal? What's your big why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I like to get Mike on here too, man. I think he's very, very savvy when it comes to the investment
We
side.
have to get a bigger table.
We need to get that man, like that man alone, man, is going to take up this whole section right here, man. He's just
and it's not because he's fat; he's just huge.
Huge, man. Like this behemoth. I remember walking into Keller Williams one day, and he was passing out these alcoholic popsicles, and I was like, "This man is an absolute giant, man." I was like, "Good Lord!" I was like, "Mike," I was like, it's just a man with a box in his hand. Just, hey, you want one? I was like, "This is dumb." I was like, "I love it. I freaking love it." But no, man. Kind of going back to the preparation of 2024. It's I don't foresee income wages catching up anytime soon. Okay. I think there is going to be an increase somewhere, some way, but I still don't think it's going to be enough, again, with the cost of living. So, the idea of home ownership now, man, it's not even one of those things where, and I guess it's scary to say, it's just really becoming more and more out of reach. Seriously, it really is. And, I truthfully, I do feel bad for those who maybe was on the fence and who waited and they were like, man, I got priced out, or overbid, during the golden years, right?
But again,
right.
I hate.
No, I know. They look at that, man, but it was the buyer exhaustion, right? Maybe they didn't have the money to compete, right? So that's why I was trying to tell a lot of people, I was like, well, this is your time to shine, man. Like, this is your time to get in. Even if it's not the home that you ideally look back where you could afford when the rates were in the 2s and 3s.
But that's the whole problem.
That's the problem.
Is that it's their
vision is, and yes, Mike, I would love you on the show too. Please let me know your schedule.
It's completely skewed. Like we run into people all the time that are like, we want to buy our first house, and they're looking at $475,000 houses.
Yeah,
that's not a starter home, guys. Like that is not a starter home.
No,
and if you can buy something that's significantly, or not even necessarily significantly, but that is under your budget,
yeah,
that allows you to do what you want to do as with a house, as in having a house,
yeah,
but then affords you the ability to have some free money where you can still enjoy your life. That's where the joy of home ownership comes in.
Yeah.
But if you buy something that's maxed out on your budget and you're like, and you've got to do math 3 or 4 different ways with crayons and be like, I think I can make this work. No.
Yeah.
Then the math doesn't work. And it is a thing. But people got to understand too that, like, you need to buy smart.
Yeah, you got to buy smart, man. But at the same token, it's listen, I did your loan, and I know you got a phenomenal rate, man. And I tell everybody, I was like, if you got same thing with my freaking parents, man. My freaking parents, my dad. I talked to my dad is very old school, very old school. Now I talked to him about it, and he's like, no, I ain't giving up my 2%, son. And I'm like, I know. I hear it. Dad, like you're telling me everything everybody else said when they bought the twos. Even hashtag Carla Baker, love her to death too. She's like, I'm so glad I bought it. And I was like, I know, I get it. But let me tell you this. I'm happy for everybody who did it, but at the same time, it's ruined the mentality of buying a house. 1,000%. It's ruined the mentality of buying a house because the unrealistic expectations is now stuck in your head, and there's always this false hope of, will it come back? Will I be able to afford more and all that? Well, let's see. Only 2 questions to say.
Yeah, exactly. Do I like the home, or
Can afford the monthly?
can I afford the monthly
Yeah.
payment? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we preach all the time. It's like, what is your payment? Are you comfortable with this payment? Right. That's literally what it
So
is.
on the money side, 100%.
Yep.
On my end of it, it's not that I don't care about the money, but that's not my lane, right? Like that's you and your lender's conversation if you're comfortable with that payment,
Right.
right? My big thing is, what do we want? Does this house meet whatever the parameters are that you're looking for?
Right.
If we're trying to find a 100% solution, does it 100% meet what you need?
Right.
Are we trying to find a 70% solution? Does a 70% solution meet your needs?
Right.
That's what I care about, because I want you to be happy and comfortable with your purchase.
Yeah.
And that includes your payments. But Mike, you're 100% correct. Do you like the house? Can you see yourself living here? Does it function for you?
But
Is it affordable to where you're not stretching yourself so drastically thin to where you're going to be in possibly bankruptcy? And but that goes down the same line of the 2-to-1 buy downs and all this stuff. It's like, are you doing that as a placeholder so you can hopefully refinance later?
yeah. Well, and it's kind of one of those things too, man. Talking to people, where they're like, "Hey, I want my payment to be around 1,200," and I was like, "Guy, like that meant that like I'm sorry to say, but like 1,200. That's what I'm saying, man." And I tell a lot of people the $1,200 mentality. You can't go back to pre-2020.
What would that be, averagely speaking? I mean,
1,200?
Yeah, what do you think purchase price would be? You
Probably
got it
around
around 120, 150?
Probably, no, yeah, probably. I'd say probably about 150 or below.
Yeah.
But I mean, but again, at 150, what are you actually getting? Then
on the market.
Exactly. But I mean, or if it is,
not habitable.
it's rough. And so, I have to have these conversations with a lot of people where, my first question is, what do you pay for rent? If you're renting, how much do you pay for rent? 1,200. Are you comfortable with that? It's a little tight. I want it to be below. And that's where I'm like, okay, here's ideally where you're going to be at, unless you have this buku of money that you can put down to help alleviate that payment. Because there's not enough discount points you can buy. There's not enough, buy downs you can do in order to achieve that $1,200 comfortably.
No, and the amount of money you'd have to put down would be
pretty substantial. Yeah. So, and again, I think it's just restructuring the view of home ownership. Like, honestly, at this point, you have to understand $1,800 is pretty much the new norm. Seriously, 18.
I'd like to say $2,000, 18 to $2,000.
It's
pretty average.
Pretty average, yeah. But I think people have to get acclimated and accustomed to that because, and again, a lot of people either who was looking when they were between the 2s and 3s or pre, the golden years, whatever everyone wants to call it. Everybody's still stuck on that, man. And you can't walk into this market where it's a completely different market. And that market that, again, like you said, you got to erase that out of your memory altogether because that market is long gone. And there's literally nothing you and I can do to bring it back. And
there's also another factor that we keep bringing up almost every time we go down this rabbit hole is there's another side to that story of, they got a 2 or a 3%, but they also paid.
Yeah.
And what I mean by paid is they had to put some sort of an appraisal gap, or they had to, basically just, they had to pay a bunch of money, guys. Like without like,
And you could eat a bat.
But I mean that they literally had to pay for it. And that's what that's what a lot of the people now that are like, well, man, I wish I had this rate. But the problem is you had to be able to afford to be able to get locked in to get an accepted offer at that rate.
Yeah. And, I can't tell you how many times, I've kind of pushed that, hey, in 2024, the rate's going to cool off. You know what they asked me? Is it going to get back down to the twos again? Is it going to get back down to the threes?
You're gonna be, man,
well,
a five flat, and you'd be lucky. All right.
Well,
that's my personal guess. I think 5.5, 6 is probably where it's going to stay.
I think honestly, mid fours is where we'll end up.
Holy crap! I think that's almost too low.
But see, no. So the way I look at it is, I think anything below 4% is going to be a bomb in our market. It's going to be detrimental.
Well, the podcast you sent me that I ended up sharing,
right.
The guy talked about. I was like,
yeah,
I listened to the whole thing, and I was like, that's actually really smart.
It is, and honestly, you and I both I agree. Like, even though the market has it'd be nice to see some relief. I agree with them too. Like, I think the Feds probably should hold off a little bit longer to cut the rates in order to see what kind of stabilization we're going to have. Because what's going to happen is, again, we're going to have a repeat of what just happened, but it's going to be on steroids, like you said. It's going to be on steroids where, again, there's no inventory. Buying, going in over asking.
So let me I'll try to elaborate on this a little bit. So basically, the conversation, I don't remember. We could find the link or something. Daniel can post it up on that YouTube channel when we post it. But so basically, in a sense, what's this? He said, if the Feds drop this rate to where it's going to be something basically I think his line was around 6.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like right at about 6 is where he said it.
5 or 6. Yeah.
So, and it needs to stay there for probably a good 2/3 this year.
Yeah.
Because everything needs to, economically speaking, everything needs to kind of just hit a settling point.
Yeah.
Because if they just magically flip the switch and it goes to, let's say, magically 3s, right?
Yeah.
It's when he's talking about being a bomb in our market, what's going to happen is it's going to cause and accelerate what happened in the 2000 or 20, was it 2021?
2021. Yeah.
That whole thing, right? So what's going to happen to explain this is if the rates drop, that means they're going to flood everybody with buyers and stuff, right? Which means we're going to go in that same rat race all over again. But here's the part where everybody's missing and not quite understanding. Your purchase prices, meaning your market values, are going to rise.
Yeah.
So because people are going to be, again, overbidding for houses or whatever else, which is going to automatically start upping the prices of the normal home.
Right.
What's not catching up, and what Daniel hit a minute ago, was the income wages are not going to meet it. So you're actually expanding the gap. Now we're here. We used to be here back in 19, where it was average person could buy an average home.
Right.
Now we're here to where an average person can buy a very basic home.
Yeah.
And if we go up anymore, the average person's not even going to be able to reach the basic home.
Yeah.
Because the price index of the houses versus what the wages are going to be completely separated altogether.
Yeah. And like I said, that's when it's going to be so detrimental to our economy as a whole. I like I said, that's what I'm saying. Like, people who bought in 2s and 3s is great. Like, that's awesome. Like, you'll never see it again. And if there's even a talk about it, like, I would be scared because, like I said, the economy as a whole cannot sustain.
No, that's why I say, and Mike's over here, he's saying it again too. And he's so no, it'll never be that low again. The economy cannot sustain that low. Yeah, exactly what we're saying. Exactly what we're saying.
By the way, Crystal, the girl who does all the stickers. Yeah. She says hi. She says hi, and they got a little dog named Harvey. It's a Great Pyrenees, and it's a massive little puppy.
So it will allow, huge job growth. Exactly. And that's why we're talking about, like I said initially, I was like, it needs to stay at that, probably the low end being 5.5, but the median needs to stay around that 6% because everything needs to level itself out.
Well, level itself out, and the biggest issue, guys, is, not to get too much politically, the politics and all this on a podcast, but with the government printing as much money as they did,
your money's worth less.
It's worth less. You can't afford anything, and then once everything becomes unobtainable, that, I'm telling you, you want to talk about the middle class, there will be no middle class anymore. It's going to be, are you going to be up here where the rich stay rich, Or if you're on that borderline middle class, you may fall directly below because you can't get into the home anymore. You don't get paid enough. Your dollar's not going as far as anymore. So you're like, okay, so now like a good chunk of, of the average working Americans, man, dude, like if you were struggling in 2023,
Yeah.
right, and hypothetically they cut the rates down to 3 again, homie, that $300,000 house, guess what? People have learned from the last rush. Oh, hey, last time I lost out by doing 10 grand over. I'm going to give them 20 grand over this time.
No, but again, and then it resets the market trends,
does.
right? So it resets market values.
Yeah, and I honestly think that's kind of the scariest thing to kind of really even think about is the real estate market and the mortgage industry. Oh, excuse me, it's always going to be a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Always going to be a roller coaster. There's always going to be things thrown at us, but all we can say is, a lot of people think this is a fear tactic, and it's like, you guys are just trying to scare me into buying a home. But I'm like,
market trends and numbers.
It's facts at the end of the day, man. And that's one of the things, facts. We don't care about your feelings necessarily. It's just like we're going to tell you the facts, and if you're caught with your pants down, when the market gets hot again and you can't afford a house again, I'm telling you, it's going to be crazy this year. Yeah. It is. It's going to get crazy. And then even let's say it mellows out again, right? Let's say it mellows out again to where, we're not as super crazy, but there's still plenty of buyers coming in. It's a very consistent market again, right? The people that have been griping about this big market crash that's going to happen, the people that's been saying, like, I'm going to keep waiting, I'm like, dude, you're going to get caught with your pants down. And you're honestly, the dream of having a homeowner, like being a homeowner, it dwindles like this. And it just, like the podcast said, man, the gap is going to continue to grow.
It is. And kind of looking back,
numbers mean things. Yes, numbers mean a lot of things. Yeah.
If you look at, we'll go from, I guess, 2011, 2012, right?
Yep.
All the way up through, we'll say 19. That was a pretty steady market, if you will, right? Between buying and selling, it was kind of the rates were, they would go up a little bit, go down a little bit or whatnot, but it was decently steady.
Yeah.
And then the whole madness happened. Yeah. And then nobody knew what was going to happen from there. And then when the dust settled and you got to kind of relook at all that data that you could get a hold of at that point for the last 2 years, that's when we started seeing the fact that what damage, I guess, I don't know if I want to call it damage, but I guess the outcome of what all that really happened, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the theory of operation, that's where this data is being driven.
Well, and it's like those people, like, and I tell a lot of people this, where, I've seen plenty of videos talking about the housing market and, looking at houses. A lot of people snipping like, oh, that house isn't worth $330. It's not worth that. You guys are selling these at higher prices. And I'm like, but those are the people, honestly, man, that they won't get it, man. They won't get it. And it's because at the end of the day, they refuse to believe, like, okay. And it's the same concept you use with vehicles, man. Like, okay, so what you paid for your car, do you think it's really worth that? I mean, you cranked it back 10 years ago, right? Like a higher end truck. Yeah, it was like $40K. That was a high end truck.
That was months ago. We had a conversation.
It's like $40K. Now, dude, we're six figures for a truck, but you don't hear people complaining about it. I mean, yes, you do, but so do I. But the problem is man, they refuse to. They're upset because there's nothing in their price range.
Well, and Kenneth's, so he's got a good question too.
Oh yeah, but why don't they get it?
Why don't they get it, Daniel? So, I mean, I don't think it's that they don't get it. I think that they just refuse to accept it.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's a difference.
Yes and no.
Because I get it, because they're thinking in the past, right? they're looking in a review mirror and they're like, man, that house back over here on 123 Main Street 5 years ago sold for 150.
Right.
And then today, I listed again today, and it's listed for 350. And they're like, "There's no way that it's worth that much." The seller's not saying that. The seller's like, "Heck yeah!" You know what I mean? I was like, they're pumped because that's what because the house next door and the house 2 doors down the other way, they both sold for 350.
But again, you know, and it's that mindset though, where you know, no matter what you say, those are going to be the people that they're always going to be combative. 100%. And it's going to be one of those things that no matter what statistics you throw at them, no matter what you kind of break down the numbers for them, how you show, like, if people would just understand real estate is an investment, like you said, it's an investment.
Well, so it's, I'm going to cut you off.
No, you're good.
What I tell a lot of people too, when they have this when I have this conversation, especially with buyers, they're like, "Man, that's crazy." I was like, "Well, you got to understand too that it's an appreciative asset, right?
Yeah.
So it appreciates, it grows in its worth. A car or truck, for example, goes backwards. It's a depreciative asset.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about like your grandpa's hot rod, freaking old Plymouth,
like the classic,
shit. That's not what I'm talking about. Your normal freaking whatever truck or car you got.
Yeah.
It doesn't gain value. It loses value. Even if you just barely drove it off the lot and it had 2 miles on it and you sold it 2 years later, you're still not going to get what you paid for.
Right. Yeah.
But a house for example, or a real property, right? So a real estate property is going to appreciate.
Yeah.
That's why it gets grow. That's why it's an investment.
Yeah.
That's why it's.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key word. It's an investment, guys. It's an investment.
Yeah. And like Mike said, you know, cars are a liability, and it's true.
100%.
You know, it's a liability, and it's something that's not going to make you money. Like you said, it's a debt you pay. Like you look at your mortgage, yes, it's a debt, but it's not to me, it's not a debt.
Yeah.
It's not. It's you're investing into your own self or your future to cash it out later on. Doesn't matter.
And then to add a little bit of,
unless you're Mike and you get some really nice rooms for Christmas. Shout out.
on the Navy. But 24-inch rims are.
I know.
That's only because you're 9 feet tall. All right.
I know.
But
Man's got a custom Lincoln, bro. He's got like a whole lawn chair in his freaking driver's seat so he can extend out. Behemoth. But you know, I think it's really how do I put it, man? I think as this year progresses, as much as our industry, obviously, yes, it's good for you and I because obviously there's going to be more business. But at the same token, a lot of people just don't understand or refuse to accept the things that you're going to forfeit in order to buy in this market. Like, it's like, so you're willing to sacrifice a seller concessions. You're willing to sacrifice a home inspection. You're willing to sacrifice even like pretty much like sight on scene, but like you're going to sacrifice all that in order to save like 2% on your interest rate. Like that, to me, the cons outweigh the pros by a mile.
I remember going through that.
Yeah.
I remember going through that day after day after day with people. And it's nerve-wracking because it's.
But you know what? And I tell a lot of people, you know what, man? Sometimes home ownership's not meant for everybody. It's not, and that's fine. And that's fine. You know, if owning a home is not on your checklist to do in life, then there's nothing wrong with that. 100%, there's nothing wrong with that.
And it'll eventually be. And the problem is, by the time you get around to it, it could be very, very tough.
Well, but that's what I'm saying though, man, is like if people think buying a home was hard in 2023, it's going to be even harder this year, and it's going to continue to get harder. On a serious note, this is all great advice. The problem is the majority of agents and mortgage brokers do not understand this themselves. They are lazy and don't take the time to learn their craft. And that's where
Mic drop.
Yeah, mic drop 100%. you know, that's why, man, I never understood. I truthfully never understood the people who get into this industry and is very, I guess, very minimal
Mhm.
on something where it's somebody's biggest investment. You're taking out the largest loan probably in your lifetime. Yet you as a real estate agent, me as a lender, can't give the proper education and the proper guidance. Rather, I see it more so than, hey man, check out this cool interest rate,
Because
right. But there's always follow ups, man. Like just just like this is what you and I built a lot of our our profile on, right? Like on my side, it's the same thing. I education is huge to me, and
Mhm.
education is huge to you, because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where um you know if something goes sour and somebody says, well, you didn't tell me this properly or whatever, right? And if I truthfully didn't, then I screwed up. I did not do my job. Rather than, oh, hey, you just got frustrated because you didn't understand something, even though I've explained it to you multiple times, you didn't want to comprehend it. There is where I can at least sleep at night saying, like, dude, you can be mad at me all you want. I did my job to the
Well, and
fullest.
it's like, I've said it, I've said it a bunch of times, and all my my buyers consultations with buyers and my seller
Yeah.
appointments when I talk to them, there comes a point in the conversation where I always tell them, I was like, look, there are three words that I'm not going to hear. We're not going to do this
Yeah.
during this transaction, and it's but I thought.
Yeah.
And it's not me being rude, like I'm not repeating myself. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm
Yeah.
getting at is I need you to understand, and if you have questions, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I need you to understand like what we're doing going forward. And then that's why when I meet somebody new, whether it's a seller or a buyer,
Right.
my first question is, awesome, glad you want to do something, high five. But my real question is, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Because if you can explain to me and articulate why you want to do something, or why you want to buy a certain type of property, or why you want to invest in a certain type of property, let me hear what you got to say, and let's kind of problem solve, and let's work through this.
Yeah.
Because I might have a better option, or maybe that is a great option, but I have a different, not necessarily lender, but a different product that I think we might need to look into, because it
Right.
might be a better fit for what you're doing, or you name it. And that's where, again, with the education thing, I'm not all knowing. Like there's plenty of stuff I don't know,
Right.
but I've tried to make it a complete tenet and principle of my business to stay very educated and to
Yeah.
constantly try to learn new things. And if I run across something that I don't know,
Yeah.
or I don't understand, I try to go learn about it, because that's me being able to bring a value
Right.
to the whole process, because I want to be able to bring value to people, not just, oh, I can type this paperwork. Here's sign this. I want to add something to the transaction.
But I mean, honestly, it's blatantly obvious when you can literally and I people think this is going to like be taking a jab at people, but I'm like, dude, I can line up 10 different real estate agents. I can line up 10 different lenders. I the odds of people, the education between each person, there's probably going to be a huge variance between all of them. Instead of where it should be like, hey, what's this? Hey, what's this? What's this? And everybody should be passing with flying colors. That's what you got your license for. That's what I got my license for. And the problem is, though, man, is I that's why I cherish Castle Rock as a whole, because the amount of knowledge that I get here, I personally think that even if somebody maybe had a bad dealing with Castle Rock or whatever have you, if you guys came into the mortgage lending world, man, like the education here is massive. And I can't stress enough. Like that's why, I became like a little mortgage nerd, because I was staring at a computer screen when I first got in here, did a whole mortgage academy, went through the whole steps, man, of learning the industry. Like it's a big deal. And, the people that, and again, the only people that can offer rates, dude, it, To me, whenever I see people just flashing rates all the time, to me, it's just sales. 100%. I truthfully think it's sales because besides that, right? Like that's why we don't ever post things about like hey, Cats Rock offer these rates today because it's such a big variance. There's
Because it's so subjective.
it's very subjective, and I can't stand whenever I see these posts, man. Because at the end of the day, dude, it's not about the rate, man.
XYZ Mortgage Company, come over to us and we'll give you a 5%. It's like, but then it's like in micro letters,
Yeah.
in there. And it's like, if you have a bazillion-dollar credit score and with $1 million down and
No, 100%.
And it's like, it's so misleading.
But see, and that's why I can't get behind it, man. And that's why like you don't ever see on my social media if I'm not like squatting a freaking bus, like I'm honestly posting about just mortgage updates. Dude, hey, like today, I posted one about the Fed's cutting the rates. But you don't hear me saying, "Hey, homie, share my post, man. Rates are going to be down 4%." I'm like, no, man. Like I don't sell rates.
To me, it's a lot of it is it's like a.
And yes, kudos to you, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's a. How do I put it? It's a lot of people are about like the quick pitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To kind of just grab
because it's the easy button, man.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Versus being able to learn and then play the long game with people. I would rather play the long game with a client.
Yeah.
And make sure that if it took them 6 months to buy a house, it took them 6 years. I don't care.
Right.
My thing is, I just I want to make sure we're making the right decisions. I want to make sure we're making the right moves.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that, and when I say make sure, because I'm trying to be there to help them be the left to right limits.
Yeah.
Because when they get in the box and they get in the ring and they want to start doing this, buy a house thing, their emotions take over and everything else. So that's why when it comes to understanding, again, the big why we're doing this is so important to me because it's going to help me kind of keep you within that box. Now, if you tell me you're changing the box and we're going left or right, okay, I do what I'm told, but I want a reason why we're moving out of the original parameters.
Right.
And that's what's, I guess, a lot of my success with this job is because of that, is because I'm like, guys,
yeah,
we started here. Why are we now over here?
Yeah.
And if this is where you want to be, then hey, rock and roll, like not a problem. We can go. I need to rewire or relook at what I'm doing. I need to recalibrate because I'm looking over here still.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with me. When we talk about payments, right? Like, hey, you said your cap's $2,700. Why are you looking at a home that's it's going to be a $3,200 payment? Like, why? Because now you've thrown me into left field. I'm like, homie, like we had a game plan. We were right here. We're all on the same team. And then all of a sudden it's like you let go of our hand. You're like, shiny thing. Let me go look at that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's, let me bring you back in.
Time out.
Yeah.
Like, is this even a thing? Because again, that goes back into now we're emotionally buying or we're doing emotional actions to where, let's say now all of a sudden you find that shiny object, we write an offer, it gets accepted. And now we're officially under contract. And then a week and a half into it, you get your first underwriter back, or your loan gets underwritten for the first time back, and you're like, all right, guys, so this is what we're going to be looking like. This is roughly where the payment's going to be, and you're like, well, wait, time out. I thought we said it was good. No.
Yeah,
we didn't say this price point is where that monthly payment was.
Yeah,
nothing about over here said it was going to be over there.
Yeah, and you know what? But that's where it comes to working with a good team at the end of the day, man, because everybody's got to be on the same sheet of music. 100%. Like, you have to be on the same sheet of music, because if the agent's not conveying anything to me, or I'm not conveying anything to the agent, and everybody's just lost in the sauce, like, yeah,
nobody knows what direction we're going.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be looking at homes that's probably out of your budget that you really want to spend, and then you don't talk to the lender. They ask for a pre-approval letter. I send it.
Well, I've had plenty of deals where the buyers are they're sending me homes, this, that, and the other thing, and I finally get a hold of their lender, and I'm like, hey, man, question. We started here, we're over here. Like, why are they looking at those homes? I don't know, man. Like, you gave me a pre-approval for up to this amount.
Yeah.
Right. So we're staying within those parameters and looking within those price points.
Right.
But if they said specifically they don't want to go above X because of a monthly payment, then why are we even going over here?
And again, that's why I'm saying, it's perfect. When I talk, like, I can say, hey, look, they have a very strong buying power. Like the sky's the limit. They can buy whatever they want.
But they don't want to go.
Yeah, but I was like, hey, but let's stick around 280K because that's what's going to be within their budget. And you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. And you just run with that. But we'll go ahead and start wrapping things up here. But guys, yeah, 2024. I mean, I'm excited. A lot of people are excited, but understand this is going to be a wave that's going to come, and I don't know what to tell you. Like, meaning, like it.
I don't know how big it's going to get. I know it's going to pick up. I know I talked to several agent friends of mine that their business is already starting to get phone calls.
Dude, even in December, I can't tell you how many people called about doing a refinance because they're like, hey, I heard rates are cooling off. And that was the first little hit, like a little in the water, like this little, like dabbing your little toe in the water. And I'm talking like the rates barely moved. I mean, they moved, but what I'm saying, it wasn't enough to where it was super drastic for some people.
You're talking $100 a month.
Yeah. So, just understand, that we come in here week in and week out. We talk on the podcast. We go Facebook Live, and we talk about these kind of things. And again, there's no scare tactic behind this. There's no pressure sell. There's no salesman mentality. This is just us coming on here to give you the true, facts and our projections of what we think is going to happen. And the Fed cutting the rates do kind of scare me a little bit. I mean, yes, it's going to be good for us, but home prices are just going to start going up even more. And the scariest part is the people who is right at that cusp of middle class, dude. You almost have to be debt free.
Yeah,
seriously.
With savings.
Because we talk about this now, and if your budget was like, let's just say right now you can get to a home 1,800, 2,000, which is the norm, and let's say you wait till the rates drop. Yeah, you're like, oh, now my payment should be like 1,600. It's like, because now that house that you thought was going to be 1,800 to 2,000 is now going to be like 2,200.
And we're talking, and guys, real quick too. I mean, again, just to kind of recap, we're talking the average price point.
Yeah.
So again, for our little bubble, right? So I'll use exit one again.
Yeah.
So 2019, beginning of 2020-ish, your average price at home off of we'll just say North Exit One.
Yeah.
Was probably somewhere around 230, 235, so somewhere maybe 215, 220. So it's in that ballpark. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's pretty close. It's under 250. It was under 250. But we're talking now, like your average home over there is going to be somewhere closer to 325 to 350.
Well,
so I mean, we're talking a whole $100,000.
Yeah.
That thing has gone up in the last 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah. Mike said 215.
215. Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
Well, my parents built in Sango Mills, and
what do you say, 320 now? Is that the price? Okay.
Yeah. So, my parents built in Sango Mills when it was first being built. This is before the whole crazy madness happened. Okay. They bought a brand new, it was a Hawkins home, the ranch style, 3-bed, 2-bath with a bonus on top. I think 239.9, 2,000 square feet.
Where? And this was the
Sango Mills.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Houses right now over in that bad boy, about and quote me if I'm wrong, about 440 to 450 for like a 2,000 square foot home.
Over there, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty so, and I mean, you got to think they bought that house in like 2019.
Well, even look at Ben and Taylor, man. They paid what they pay, 320.
Yeah.
House, and I sold it like 2 or 3 years later for 520 or 540.
Good Lord, yeah.
And the difference, guys, is it appraised. It appraised for that.
Yeah. And
and we're not talking about like some dude just rolled in here with a fat stack of cash and was like, I want your house. No, no, I'm talking like legit, like it appraised for that.
yeah. And and again, we'll just start wrapping it up here. But Clarksville, unfortunately, is priced out. Like, I'm sorry, like there's not. I mean, yeah, there's still things being built, but understand, like let's say you find a house for 300K, the square footage, like a new build, a square footage is not going to be that high.
So let's see. I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. So I got a house being built over in Cherry Fields.
Oh, so Anna.
Yeah. So their house, I want to say, I can't remember what the price is off the top of my head, or by square foot anyways, but their house is right around 2,000 square feet. And it's right at 400.
Yep, 400.
It's right at 400.
Yep.
So $200 square foot roughly, somewhere in there. I mean, and that's the north side going out towards Dover.
Yeah.
And so that's not even like in the heat of the town of Clarksville. So because we're growing so much right now that it used to be there was a really big difference between exit 11, the exit 8 was kind of in the middle depending on what subdivision you were in.
Right.
And then exit 1 had like all these little different price point subdivisions, but even exit 1 as a whole is kind of starting to blend together now.
It is.
And then it's growing west now to like out to Dover and Stewart County and stuff. And you're starting to see that. I've got a handful of houses coming up in Dover, matter of fact, which is kind of crazy, but they're all going to be above 300. And they're not that big.
See, and that's what we're getting at. It's there. No matter what it comes to buying real estate, man, understand there's typically going to be a sacrifice. I don't care. It may not, until you're ready, maybe seasoned, and or unless you have just bukus of money and you're willing to throw all this money to get your perfect dream house. To me, there's always going to be a sacrifice, no matter which house you buy first initially. More than likely, it's not going to check off every single box, and the whole point is, I would love for people to start buying in now before it gets crazy, man. Because I really, because to be fair, man, it does suck to see some of my people that I'm friends with and all that. They ask me plenty of questions, man, and I'm like, guys, you're gonna have to team up with somebody, like meaning you're gonna have to get somebody else on the loan with you, because there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there.
I hope more people are open to the conversation. This past year, it didn't seem like a lot of people were really even open to the conversation to have it. And it's not about buying today. It's open to the conversation to putting a plan together to purchase. That's what I'm really hoping for this year. I'd love to have more conversations about how can we build a plan? How can we put something together so that we can actually achieve the goal for you?
Well, yeah. And, I told everybody this last year, and so I'm still preaching it now. Just save your money. Like, honestly, if you go to Starbucks, Lassiter's, Dutch Bros every day or 3 times a week, cut it out. $15 a week, save it. Start penny pinching. Start coming up with an actual budget to where you can penny pinch if your goal is to get into a home this year, because you're going to need every single dollar, man.
But it'll be worth it.
It'll be worth it 100%, because it's awesome, man. I can't tell you how many times, we've closed out people, and just a pure excitement, man. It's a great feeling for a lot of people. So, people don't get priced out of home buying. They just get priced out of their expectations. Yeah.
Monsters and bangers too.
Yeah.
People don't get priced out of a home buying or home buying. They just get priced out of their expectations. That's correct. Yeah. And that's what we said earlier too, Mike, is the expectation management is, really it's just out of control, because again, it's people don't look at the smaller house on the corner as my first, I say it jokingly, but Fisher Price, my first starter home. But that's where you need to, it's not that you have to start there, but that's a smart place to start. Because you could build equity in a house, turn that thing into a rental.
Yeah.
And then go buy something else. And then you want to sell this thing in 5 years. And magically now you got 150 grand or whatever you made off the equity of this house that, by the way, you didn't even have to pay off because you rented it for the majority of the time. And then you can sell this one. Now you got 2 houses you've sold to dump into something like that. That's the whole game.
But you know what? Even if it comes as small as to doing a townhome, Like let's say you don't have any kids, or what, or maybe you do, or whatever your circumstances. Like maybe you don't have a big family, or maybe it's just you and a roommate, or your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, wife, just whoever, right? I think it's awesome that even if you guys look into a townhome, because again, I think even a townhome down the road is a good rental.
Oh, they're great for that.
Great,
especially for Airbnbs and things like that.
yeah.
Awesome.
So that's what I'm saying. You know, like that is your starter. You know, because some of these, you know, there's some for like 220, 240. I understand. I think I mean, it's expensive for a townhome compared to what it used to be. But
because the one we sold,
yeah, I know.
I'll say his name, but yeah,
Yeah.
the one we sold to them, I think it was 240, and it's a great little thing. It's got a garage and everything.
Yeah. Mike
Put a
says
smart car in there, but I mean,
Mike says it goes back to agents being educated in the process of how all this works. Yep. Yep. And that's what I'm saying, man. You know, me and Mike did one where a guy he bought 4 townhomes. Well, three. Yeah, same place.
What's that place?
Drayton, yeah. But yeah, guys, it's pure education, and you know, if your home, if your goal is to home ownership this year, reach out to somebody. I mean, hell, I wish you would reach out to me or him or somebody that you know. If you don't reach out to us, that's fine. Just reach out to somebody, man. To at least spark the question to get it going, because you know, I don't want your feelings to be hurt if that switch comes back on and the market's flooded again. Because
It's gonna be insane.
yeah. So, but yeah, so we'll come back next week. Hopefully we'll have a guest on here. Maybe it's Mike Langley. Mike's definitely tuned in. We'll probably have to get like a whole like couch for this man.
We'll just film it in the parking lot.
Yeah, no, we'll put a setup in his Navigator.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have the camera. You know, it's like one of those things. The little cab shows. Have you seen where it's like they have a little
I
screen
like
shot?
it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, so there you go. Okay. Yeah, Mike.
Let's go.
Yeah, go ahead and get a dash cam, man, and I'll get the little mics for everybody, and you can just cruise us around. Yeah, I love it. So, let me know. You guys can come to my office. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe with some lunch. Maybe
Yeah.
some lunch.
Feed me. I need a whole buffet. All right, but yeah, we'll tune in next week. But carpool real estate, I like that. Actually, it's actually not a bad idea. Yeah, I'm gonna roll down the window, have my mic out, just interviewing random people on the side of the street. Yo, what do you think about this market?
I like it.
Go after yourself. All right, on to the next one. All right, so yeah, we'll see you guys next week. And if you guys have any questions, just give us a shout.
See you guys.
Cool.